our voices, I'm going to ask you all to join me in a chant. It goes, the people united will never be defeated. Say it with me. The people united will never be defeated. One more time. The people united will never be defeated. I got one more chant of unity that we can say together. Long live international solidarity. Say this with me. Long live international solidarity. As it was said earlier, I'm Reverend Janelle Nicolas Ablola. I am trans, I am queer, I am second generation Filipino American, I'm a pastor too, and I am a child of immigrants. I say this not to victimize myself, but to highlight these different identities, these intersectionalities, the communities that the Nikkei have struggled alongside throughout their activist history. I'm here to remember 77 years ago that the FBI began arresting Japanese Americans, and along those arrested were Buddhist priests, community leaders because of wartime hysteria. I am here because United Methodist missionaries, whose visas were arbitrarily canceled, were departed from their mission sites in the Philippines last month, and they were sent back to Zimbabwe, Malawi, and the United States. I am here because an Australian missionary, Sister Patricia Fox, continues to face harassment by the Bureau of Immigration in the Philippines, despite her serving as a missionary there for 27 years now, and the Department of Justice in the Philippines ruling the order of deportation null and void. I am here because their visits to political prisoners, their accompaniment of the sick, and their feeding of the hungry are seen as threats to the security of the US-backed Duterte regime. I am here because the Philippines is in a state of war and most people in the world aren't aware of it. I am here because Trump's attacks on the people aren't restricted to within our borders. I am here because 6,000 Filipinos leave the Philippines every day to search for work and livelihood. And to come to the US with documents, one would have to endure a 20-year wait list from the Philippines, not to mention being able to have the financial means to cover the cost of the paperwork. I am here because in April, at SFO at San Francisco International Airport, human rights and peace advocate from the Philippines, 25-year-old Jerome Aba, was detained for 28 hours and then deported back to the Philippines without ever leaving the airport. Jerome had a 10-year multi-entry visa to the US. He was invited by church leaders and had scheduled meetings with congressional leaders in Washington, D.C. about the human rights situation in the Philippines. This was his first time coming into the US, and he was held incommunicado for 22 of the 28 hours he was detained. When he arrived in the Philippines, it was revealed that during his detainment by US Custom and Border Protection, he was tortured. Despite repeated requests, he was repeatedly told he had no rights. He was not given access to the attorney that local activists and clergy had available for him at the airport. He was forced to undress in an empty room with an electric fan blowing on him for hours. To use the restroom, he was escorted by 5 CBP agents and threatened to be good or they would not hesitate to shoot him. He was offered food only after 24 hours of detainment, and CBP disrespected his Muslim faith by deliberately serving him pork. He was repeatedly accused of being a terrorist and a communist. This happened at SFO. And he endured this for 28 hours, and I think about the children who've been enduring this for days, for weeks, for months. I am here because they tried to silence Jerome, who is going to speak out on what is going on in the Philippines. He was going to speak to the conditions that the U.S. supports and funds in the Philippines. I am here because I and others like you are determined to break the silence, to break bans on people, and to break down the things that divide us. This is our Nikkei legacy. Trump and Duterte are using borders and immigration agencies as weapons. I am here because we need to expand our compassion and solidarity beyond these borders, even beyond what we can do here in the US. Because we know that the foreign policy of our country and that our tax dollars are being used to fund injustice worldwide, that people worldwide are trying to escape. I am here because in Psalm 34 in the Bible, our Christian faith says that we must depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. And I am here because the wonderful abundance of speakers tonight, the performances, the performers, tells me that we need to have more gatherings and conversations like these. I am here because we have a responsibility, a duty to do such pursuing of peace beyond tonight, beyond annual events, and beyond the communities with which we are most comfortable and familiar. Long live international solidarity. Say it with me. Long live international solidarity. Let this chant be a prayer, a meditation of our hopes coming together, that we may be inspired tonight, that we may walk away wiser, more equipped, more willing to act, and more fervent in our seeking of peace. That is the result of justice for all people everywhere. Amen.